Welcome back to the Big Book Roundtable and the Rico 12 family of recovery resources. Grateful to be here sitting around this virtual roundtable with Nikki M and David G. We're sitting from all across North America, getting ready to be all over the world here soon, physically, as Nikki's about ready to take off and head off to Europe. But man, this is a beautiful thing that we can sit around and go line by line through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Today, we're going to be finishing up the chapter "We Agnostics" as we do this, and what a powerful chapter. We'll be getting into that. Before I introduce the other panelists here on the roundtable, I just want to reach out to you, the listening audience. If for whatever reason, as you listen to these, you're finding value and you're feeling a nudging to contribute, you can do that in many ways. You can do that in as a simple way as sharing this podcast or any of the other podcasts that bring meaning into your life with others, those around you. Another very helpful way to do that would be to jump in and donate. You can find links in the show notes. You can go to rico12.com. It's /support and just donate. Whether it's, we've had donations as low as 27 cents. Grateful for those. I've had donations as big as $500. Grateful for those. They help keep the lights on and help us share this message with those around us, and continue to move this project forward. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. All right. Today we're going to let me have our panelists introduce themselves. Nikki, why don't you jump on, say hi, and introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. And I'm just so grateful for your service, Justin and David. I'm Nikki M. According to my big book, I'm an intelligent agent spearhead. And I like that title because I've carried many other ones, and I'm not going to say them. They're real inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. All right, David, introduce yourself, please.
You bet. Thank you for your service as always, Justin and Nikki. Always so good to be at the table with you. David G., alcoholic addict, many sorts, recovered in the rooms now as a result of this process. August 8th, 1994, just celebrated 30 years, just still flying high on that deal. God is wonderful. Thank you.
Beautiful thing. And I'm Justin B. from Spokane, Washington. I am a grateful son of a all-powerful, all-loving God and a recovering addict in multiple fellowships, and just grateful to be able to sit down with these two amazing human beings. Today, as mentioned, we are going to finish up We Agnostics, and we'll be starting at the bottom of page 55 in this book, and we'll finish up through the middle of page 57. And there's going to be a lot of information in here. So sit down, grab your big books, your highlighters, pen, paper, whatever it is that will help you remember what you pull from our conversation today and put into action. Let's go here. All right. In this book, you will read the experience of a man who thought he was an atheist. His story is so interesting that some of it should be told now. His change of heart was dramatic, convincing, and moving. Our friend was a minister's son. He attended church school where he became rebellious at what he thought an overdose of religious education. For years thereafter, he was dogged by trouble and frustration. Business failure, insanity, fatal illness, suicide. These calamities in his immediate family embittered and depressed him. Post-war disillusionment, ever more serious alcoholism, impending mental and physical collapse brought him to the point of self-destruction. One night, when confined in a hospital, he was approached by an alcoholic who had known a spiritual experience. Our friend's gorge rose as he bitterly cried out, "If there is a God, he certainly hasn't done anything for me." But later, alone in his room, he asked himself this question: is it possible that all the religious people I have known are wrong? While pondering the answer, he felt as though he lived in hell. Then, like a thunderbolt, a great thought came. It crowded out all else. Who are you to say there is no God? This man recounts that he tumbled out of his bed to his knees. In a few seconds, he was overwhelmed by a conviction of the presence of God. It poured over and through him with the certainty and majesty of a great tide at flood. The barriers he had built through the years were swept away. He stood in the presence of infinite power and love. He had stepped from bridge to shore. For the first time, he lived in conscious companionship with his Creator. Thus was our friend's cornerstone fixed in place. No later vicissitude has shaken it. His alcoholic problem was taken away. That very night, years ago, it disappeared. Save for a few brief moments of temptation, the thought of drink has never returned. And at such times, a great revulsion has risen up in him. Seemingly, he could not drink even if he would. God had restored his sanity. What is this but a simple miracle? What is this but a miracle of healing? Yet its elements are simple. Circumstances made him willing to believe. He humbly offered himself to his Maker. Then he knew. Even so has God restored us all to our right minds. To this man, the revelation was sudden. Some of us grow into it more slowly, but he has come to all who have honestly sought him. When we drew near to him, he disclosed himself to us. And that is the end of chapter 4, We Agnostics. So let's jump in and do a little bit of a snorkel through this. Nikki, let's start with you today. Why don't you share with us some of the things that you pull out and analyze from this reading that we just did today?
Well, thank you for reading that, Justin. And, I should have introduced myself as, hi, I'm Nikki M. I'm a seeker, because every day I'm honestly seeking him or this power. But we started here on page 55 about a man who thought he was an atheist, and I share more experience, strength, and hope than our friend David G. He gets into the history of all this stuff, and I can't wait to hear it. But my auntie's an atheist. If you know me, I take care of my 95-year-old auntie. I'm her power of attorney. And she's a hardcore atheist and doesn't believe in any of this. And so I've dealt with people like this. Me, I've always had some type of belief. But I've seen people change, because just like this guy, my auntie's changing. She's starting to believe in angels. And our friend, I'm on page 56, the minister's son. Now, can you imagine that? Like, you are indoctrinated, and I do use that word, into religion. You are programmed into a certain belief. So already there, he's overdosed with all, like it says, religious education. And I had that experience. My mom put me into a school called Happiness Christian School. And it was it wasn't really, it wasn't all this dogma, but it was great. It gave me a little, as further down says, a cornerstone of my foundation. So I already had that. And it was a good experience, mine was, but this guy's was bad. And I know many people like that, but I have this: calamities in my immediate family embittered and depressed me. From the birth, my mother in 1973 was in love with a black man. That wasn't really allowed in Toronto. My grandfather I didn't even meet. I'm half white, half black. That wasn't allowed. They were not even allowed to eat in restaurants in downtown Toronto at that time. So I didn't even know my dad. My mom married a guy right away. Didn't even know what my dad looked like till I met him when I was 18. So I am growing up in a house of alcoholism, love addiction, fantasy, you name it, it's alcoholism. So I'm embittered and depressed as a little person. And that just keeps going and going and going. And because it says right here, more serious alcoholism. This is a progressive disease, even sober, right? This is all through me. I'm having the same experience as this guy. One night confined in a hospital. Well, I was going to kill myself. That was me. And I was approached by my sponsor, okay, who had known a spiritual experience. Same thing happened to me. But I didn't have the same kind. What they're describing here is what we've read, and we've done a recording. So go back, please, everybody, and listen to it. It's the appendix in the back, the spiritual experience versus the spiritual awakening. That's what this guy's having, an experience where he falls to his knees. I love this. And who am I to say there is no God? Well, Nikki grew up thinking she was God, playing God. You know the whole story. We're going to get into it in the next chapter. This man falls out of bed. I didn't have that. I had that experience once. It was in year 8 of working this program, actually during COVID, when I lost my job and lost everything. I dropped to my knees in the middle of the day, and I realized that nothing on this earth is mine. Nothing. And I was overwhelmed by the presence of God. I had literally that day mentally left this world and realized I'm a spirit creature. And that poured over me just like it poured over him. And since that moment, that I'll never forget it, because I've had the educational variety of slowly waking up, but I have felt the presence of infinite power and love, because my worship of money, wow, that blocks me from God. So just like this is our friend's cornerstone fixed into place, mine is constantly fixed into place because I have the educational variety. I've had a couple of these, white light moments that Bill Wilson and our friend, the atheist, has had. But just like him, no later vicissitudes, no later misfortunes, no later calamities has really shaken my foundation, my cornerstone, because my thinking, my centers in my mind obsession problem has disappeared. But for a few brief moments. And what does that look like right now? When I came home from Luxembourg, as you mentioned, I'm leaving today to go for another month, and I'll be back at the round table with you guys in a month. But last time I left, I came home to a brief moment of temptation when I saw my neighbors destroying my property. And in that moment, I needed a husband, and I needed a man, and I needed someone to defend me against these evil people. But that was a thought, because my next thought was, you need God. Call the properly appointed authority, Nikki. Get in line, toe this line, and get into what you need to do. See, it's first thought is I need. Second thought is I have God now. And at such times, great revulsion. That's the promise. I recoil from thinking, needing, and wanting anything but this power like a hot flame. That's come after 12 years of being in the room. This is not an overnight matter. Don't leave. Because I can't go sit, steal, think, want, touch anything that's not mine, even if I could. If you offered it to me, I can't. Because God has restored me into being a loving, responsible, and I'm going to shout it out, I'm a woman of God. Let me repeat that for the people in the back. I have been restored to being what God intended me, a loving child of God. It's a miracle. Yet its elements are simple. This is real simple, but not easy. We read it. Circumstances. Why? What circumstances? Well, there it is. The business failures, the insanity, the fatal illnesses, the suicides. Everyone knows my mom's living in my house because stepdad number 2 of 25 years took a pistol, blew his head off, and we're living with it now. So these circumstances, the unmanageability of my life, make me willing to believe every day. I have to humbly every day offer myself to my maker. Go deep on that. Yeah, my mom had an egg. My dad had a sperm, but God hand wove everything on this planet. And I love these promises. I have them highlighted in pink for promises. God restored us all, everyone, to our right minds. What's our right minds? Love, peace, compassion for my neighbors that are literally, this is a nightmare for them too. And it's a revelation. And it's sudden when you do this work. Want it. Some of us grow into it more slowly, and I want to go deep, and we'll get to David. We don't grow into the steps slowly. You work the steps. It says immediately, launched, next, fast. You grow into this God consciousness slowly. It's taken me, man, I'm not there. I'm never there. But God, He, the power, love, responsibility comes to all. Honestly, seek it. Hi, I'm Nikki. I'm a seeker. And when I drew near to this power, when I lie on my belly, like that Michelangelo 16th Chapel picture, and you see man laying back, being lazy, a sloth, legs wide open, wanting everything for him, but God's reaching for you constantly. God never loosens that finger pointing at man. So everybody, please draw near to this power. A spiritual experience can look like a changed perception, a change in my perception, and I want to ask myself, what is my relationship with God daily? These are my notes here. Seeking God is different than finding God. I got to seek God every day. God, I love this book. I love you. I'm high on God dope. David G., I need to hear you.
David, yeah, thank you, Nikki. David, why don't you take a minute and walk us through some of the things we read here?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Nikki, thank you so much for your share. I just love hearing you. In this book, you will read the experience of a man. Really? Where at in the book? Well, if you have a third edition, it's on page 497, and if you have a third edition, it's on page 497. If you have a fourth edition, it's on page 208. It's a story in the back of the book called Our Southern Friend named Jim. He thought he was an atheist. Now, anytime you think you're something, you probably are. But as we've been talking about all the way through this, it's our thoughts, our ideas, our concepts, and our beliefs that need to change. And when that changes, we change. And that's what happened to this man. But at this point, he thought he was an atheist. Hell, I thought I was for a long time. Really did. The story is so interesting. Some of it should be told now. But there again, if you want to read the rest of it, go to the back book and read the story. His change of heart was dramatic. That's physical. Convincing. That's mental. And moving. That's spiritual. So there it is again. We've looked at that ever since the doctor's opinion. He's a minister's son. Attended church school where he became rebellious. I had my guys put a question mark there and ask themselves that question: are you rebellious? At what he thought, keyword, an overdose of religious education. I have him put a question mark there. Is that, do you feel like you have a religious education even in the program? Do you feel like, I can do things religiously here? Is this your experience? For years thereafter, he's dogged by trouble and frustration. God, I could talk all day, all week, all the rest of my life about this. Business failure, question mark. Insanity, question mark. Fatal illness, question mark. Suicide, question mark. I mean, turn this into a set of questions and don't let your head say yes, yes, no, no. Look back at your experience. Is this my experience in the big book? These calamities in immediate family embittered and depressed him, question mark. Post-war disillusionment, question mark. Ever serious more alcoholism, drug addiction, whatever, question mark. Turn it into a set of questions. Impending mental, physical collapse, question. Did it bring me to the point of self-destruction? Question. Yes, even in sobriety, it did. But here's his experience, and I love this. Now, remember, he thought he was an atheist. One night when confined in a hospital, this was Towns Hospital, by the way, he was approached by an alcoholic who had known spiritual experience. His gorge rose as he bitterly cried out, if there is a God, he certainly hasn't done anything for me. And I remember crying that out over and over. He hadn't done anything for me. It's just, I've had this rough life, a daddy that abused me, and I had to kill him. And, who gives a shit? Get up off like we said in the last episode, look at where your feet are, get up off your ass, quit feeling sorry for yourself, and take a walk. I can't change what happened to me as a kid, but I can change my outlook upon it now and help others that have been through the same experience yet. So later, alone in his room, and this is usually when it happens, it's when we're alone. If I got people around me, they're yapping in my ear, just read the story of Job and see how his friends talked all that shit in his ear. But he didn't believe it. He knew better. But with this guy, he was alone. And that's usually when it comes. And he asked himself a question. He asked self a question. Self's always the one asking questions, Why didn't you do this? How come you didn't do that? I can't believe that you ended up like this. Look at all you've done. I tried to warn you against this. I told you that the people wasn't good, and all the time it's the one that set me up to do this. So turn around and ask self a question. Is it possible that all the religious people I've known are wrong? I could not answer that question for years in this book. I looked at that question over and over and over and over. And when I went through this work in 2019, I remember stopping my sponsor there because he was reading me through this book. And I said, is it possible? It could be, but surely it's not. And he said, you know what? I think the ego looks at right, and it looks at wrong. It looks at black. It looks at white. It looks at up. It looks at down. Nobody really gives a shit, David. Who cares whether they're right or wrong? What's your experience? And he took me to page 85 in the book. Or, 87. And it says, be quick to see where religious people are right. He said, do you believe that? I said, I guess. He said, but notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't say be quick to see that they are right. It says be quick to see where they are right. And there's a big difference in the way that's worded. Their experience is their experience. It may not be mine. My experience is my experience. It may not be yours. It doesn't mean it's right or it's wrong. It's right for me. It might not be right for you. So could all of them I have known be wrong? Yes. Could all of them I have known been wrong? No. It doesn't matter. Don't get hung up. on the analysis. So while pondering the answer, I don't think it's him pondering the answer. I think it's the self. It's coming up with another plan. He felt, keyword, he felt as though he lived in hell. And if you feel like you've lived in hell, you probably have. But if you start feeling like you're living in heaven and the program and the miracles are coming true, then you probably are. But like a great thunderbolt, see that, God didn't came, lightning didn't strike, all this shit, a great thought came. And that's how I experienced this power, through my thoughts. It crowds out all else. That's the obsession. The obsession is a thought that crowds out all other thoughts. Well, the obsession came in a great way, not a bad way. And it crowded all out. And it asked him a question. Who are you to say there is no God? And so I love this. He falls out of the bed on his knees. He's overwhelmed by the conviction, keyword, and presence. It pours over and through him like a great flood. It says the barriers, that means prejudice, has built through the year. I mean, it's gone. All that stuff was swept away. After 4 and 5, I remember just thinking, where the hell have I been all this time? Wow, this is so crazy. It's almost like I couldn't even remember the things that occupied my mind on a daily basis. He stood in the presence of infinite love and power. I was told that only happens after you die. Bullshit. No, it doesn't. Were they wrong about telling me that? Yes. Was it wrong for them? Probably not. Doesn't matter. Because he had stepped from the bridge of reason to the shore of faith. Remember that on page 53? If you got that, look at it just a second. I'll try to hurry up here, but second to the last paragraph. Outline of the new promises, the new land had brought tired eyes to fresh spirits, flagging spirit, friendly hands stretched out and welcome. We're grateful. Reason had brought us so hard, but somehow we couldn't. Wide step ashore. We couldn't come all the way in, set all the way down. Now we can. Now we can. He had stepped from the bridge of reason to the shore of faith. For the first time in his life, he lived in constant companionship with his creator. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think about is, hey, God, what's happening today, man? Glad you woke me up. What can I do for you? And that's how my prayers start every day. It used to be, hey, man, help me, help me, help me, show me, me. And as our friend Justin read, what is this? But a miracle of healing. But if you look in 57 there, I don't want to skip this. Save for a few brief moments of temptation, the thought, keyword, the thought of drink is never returned. That's what changed. And in the great times of great revulsion has risen up, and we want to circle this word, in him, not around him, not beside him, not by him. By God, it has risen up in him. It's risen up in me, and it's risen up in these people that are in this room today. Hell, can't even drink even if you would. The miracle isn't that I haven't drank whiskey and slept with a bunch of women this morning. The miracle is, hell, I haven't even wanted to. I haven't even thought about it. That's the miracle. And that miracle is healing. Its elements are simple. Step 1 made us willing, circumstances, to believe. That's step 2. He humbly offered himself to his maker. That's step 3. Then he knew. Now, I don't know what he knew, but I know what I knew, and I know what my sponsees know. By God, you're writing inventory. And if you don't know that, you will know it if you go through this book with me. And Nikki said it so well. We've all been restored to our right minds. And if you haven't, hang around. You will, if you do this work. So his came quickly. Some of ours come slowly, but he's restored all who has honestly sought. Keyword honestly. Through this process, they used to tell me in the rooms, you'll find God here, David. Hang around. It's not what my book says right here. It says, when I draw near to him through this process of the 12 steps as outlined in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, by God, I don't have to go find God. He discloses himself to me. He comes to me. I don't have to go to him. And that's what's happened. God found me. Man, this is powerful. Here's what I got, and then I'll shut up. I've got 3 things listed in that blank page under that sentence. 1, review this chapter. I make my guys do that. Review the chapter. 2, get quiet within. Shut that head up. All them thoughts, I got to get up and go to work. My mama's waiting on me over here. I need to get up now. I don't need to do shit, but get quiet within. 3, ask God this question: am I ready to step from the bridge of reason to the shore of faith? And let my heart answer that question, not my head. And if I can say yes to all of that and do what I've been asked in those 3 things, then man, I'm getting ready to go on a journey that I will never come back from in this next chapter moving forward all the way to the very end of this book, man. Hang on, guys. It's going to be a hell of a ride. So thank you. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, David. Really appreciate it. Both David and Nikki, amazing dives through those pages. I've got a couple of questions for you. Nikki, you talked about and you referenced white light moments. You said, the one that you had where you realized that nothing was yours, and you talked about you referenced just a couple others. Talk to me a little bit about white light moments versus improving conscious contact. Where is you talked about how, hey, white light moments are great. They set a cornerstone, but they aren't enough. Let's talk about improving conscious contact and how that really helps you.
Well, I hope I can answer this correctly. And David, thank you. You know what? I have mucked up completely. One of my favorite stories is our Southern friend. So as David said, get in there and look for the similarities. But how do I do this when, the white light experience versus seeking God daily? Okay, so these white light experiences come, but remember, I'm in the grip of a progressive illness. So I forget. I literally fall back dead asleep. So I know I need to do this work daily. So every day I guess the analogy, I hope I'm answering this right, Justin, is it's like this. Every day you have to work out. Say you're a baseball player, right? You go to the field, you train, you do all these things, or you're a dancer, a ballet dancer. You got to go every day and do it. And you got to do your work. Or when it comes to performance time, you're not going to perform, and so that's really what this is about, because I think my white light moments are coming because I'm doing the work daily. It's really like God gives me something amazing that will happen. Does that kind of make sense? It's like to keep me going. It's like a little nugget. It's the treat. This is what I realized, especially when David, I think it was our last episode, said, be careful of the God you choose. And I just had something amazing happen. And before I'm leaving, and it's literally a miracle. And I was talking to my friend. He's been in program with me a lot. He says, Nikki, your God loves to spoil you. He loves to, and I thought, whoa, my God loves to spoil me. So I get these few white light moments that just like Christmas that keep me going. And then every day I remember, I know my book. So I know I have to do this. Like there's no doubt in my mind. There's no questioning, because I've done a thorough step 1. I'm truly armed with the facts about myself. So seeking God, I have to do daily. I have to keep my spiritual muscle, my spiritual mind awake. It's exactly what David said. My thought life. See, it says, these are the thoughts I must carry with me as I go through the day. And it's like my thought life, that's in the step 11. I think it's page 86, 87. My thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when my thinking is cleared of wrong motives. So if my thinking is constantly seeking power and I'm staying spiritually fit through working this program every day, like my life depends on it, then when these white light moments happen, number 1, I'm awake to see them, Justin. Do you know how many white light moments we've all had and we are just dead asleep, blotting out the consciousness of our existence and we don't notice it? Because my white light moments aren't like, I got $1 million and I've got this, brand new grandbaby. My white light moments are literally like, sky is blue. Wow, that flower in my garden's gorgeous. Wow, that child of God is so special and has gifts. I can see him. I hope he can too. Does that make sense? I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you so much for diving through that, Nikki. That you said I don't know if I can answer this correctly. I don't know if there's a correct answer. I just love hearing experience, strength, and hope and putting it out there. It's very helpful to me and to others. David, the question I have for you is about questions. You said as you were reviewing that, you said I put a question mark there and I ask my sponsees this, my sponsor asked me that, and the power of questions and the honest analysis or answering of those questions. Talk to us a little bit about the reasoning behind that and the power behind that in your own experience.
Well, I went through the the Big Book Awakening process some years ago, and that's exactly how they did everything. They turned everything into a question. And if you look on page 20 of the book, it says you may have already asked yourself why it is that all of us became so very ill from drinking or whatever. Doubtless you're curious to discover how and why in the face of extra blah, 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 you know. But if you come down to the next paragraph there, it says, it's the purpose of the book to answer these questions specifically. And so that's why, you know, we just turn everything into a question. And there again, our mind can't say, yes, I've done that. No, I need to look back at my experience and let my experience answer the question. And you talk about an experience through the Big Book. Now, that's an experience to go through the entire Big Book, sentence by sentence by sentence, turning every statement in the book into a question and letting your experience answer that. That is a hell of a way to go through it. So there's a lot of power in that. Because for me, my mind will answer a question before I even know what it is. It has already set up the answer, and it's usually wrong. So, you know, the purpose of the book is to answer these questions more specifically, not only the ones that it described there, but all of the questions. And so that's why that we do it that way. And it's just a powerful way to look at the book, and especially in we agnostics. I mean, we're talking about changing not my belief in God, but my belief about God. And that's what really has to change, you know. And, you know, my wife is a devout Christian, always has been. I mean, ever since I've known her, long before we ever got together, she's just a devout Christian. And there's some of the things that we have studied together in this book, and she would say, you know what, I need to look at that deeper as a question. And she'll come back and say, you know what, my head answered that question. That's not my experience at all. And so her mind changed. And then I've done the same thing with the Bible and other books that I've read. So there's power in asking these questions, you know. And there again, you'll hear me say that a lot as we go through this. I mean, God, I could do it on every page, but I don't, you know. So it's better to meet God alone. We talked the last episode, it's better to meet God alone than with one who might misunderstand. Question, have I ever misunderstood those who claim that they've met God? My head would say, yes, of course we have. And then say, no, not really. But what's my experience on that? My experience is I don't give a shit about your experience with God. All I give a shit about is mine. But today I don't feel that way. So you see, there's a lot of power there is what I'm trying to get at. And I'm just grateful to be a part of this and to get to share a little bit of that with you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, David, for walking through that. And I'm inspired to ask more questions and seek what did you say here? Seek to answer with the heart, not the head. All right, let's go to takeaways. Nikki, why don't you start us off? What's a takeaway that you have from our conversation and reading today?
So many that I'm a hardcore love addict, and I want to take you both hostage that you never leave me ever again, because I'm learning so much and I look forward to these sessions. But page 57, there's a big blank space. And David told us, 1, 2, 3s, but mine has this, 2 Corinthians 9. Indeed, we felt we had received the sentence of death. But this happened that we may not rely on ourselves, but on God who raises the dead. That's what this is about. I have to die myself, and God is going to raise me, and I have purpose. I have a life. I'm excited to read the rest of this book. And now David's actually really cemented that I got to be here for a lifetime, because now I got to go back through this book and answer all of these with a question. Like, this is never ending, everybody. And I'm just grateful. Love you guys.
Thank you, Nikki. Appreciate it. David, what's a takeaway for you?
Well, just the love that we have here, for each other and for other people to come and be able to do that is a takeaway by itself. But, talking about going through that process, if you could see my book up close, when we go through this one-on-one with someone, every statement is a question. That should be a workshop for us, It's it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So if I'm going to take away anything from this today, it's going to be the love that we share that I've found through this power today. We're not going to talk about step 2 anymore. This chapter ended that. We're moving in 3 through 12 now. So I just want to say, about step 2 real quick, what I take away from this chapter. This is why I've been so sick. This is why I continue to relapse for years in all these areas. This is why I can't really love you with all my heart, because my belief is that you'll hurt me, that you'll leave me, that you'll damage me in some way. And when I quit believing that, and I quit believing what you will do to me, and I started looking and believing at what I could do for you in the God realm, shit, my experience has changed. We came. First 2 words in the second step. Came to. That's past tense. That's gone. And we came to that a long time ago. We came to believe that a power, not in a power, that a power could restore us. Greater than self could restore us to sanity. And I hope that's what's happened by us uncovering this chapter the way we have. Because there's only one way for that to happen. And I don't care if you're sober or not. If you just come here to get sober and you're sober, your job's done. It's done. But if you've come here to recover, you're headed for a lifetime process of changing beliefs, attitudes, and concepts. And so I went a long way around your question, but my takeaway is love. So thank you, Justin.
Beautiful. Thank you, David. And my takeaway real quick was the second bullet point that you shared in that blank spot on page 57. Get quiet within. Shut up. Within, I often am so loud that I block out anything, especially God, from getting in and opening my eyes to things that are most important. And I think that's my takeaway here is to shut up and listen and connect so that God can speak to me. And I think the way I'm going to close this out is to reread the last 2 paragraphs of this chapter. Even so, God restored us all to our right minds. To this man, to me, to David, to Nikki. The revelation may have been sudden. The rest of us, some of us, grow into it more slowly. But God has come to all who have honestly sought God. When we drew near to God, God disclosed himself to us. And that's what this is all about. Once I open my eyes and am willing to allow God to disclose himself to me, when I draw near to him, he draws near to me. And he will do the same to each of you because you're worth it. Keep at it, everybody. Keep working this.